Hello, and thanks for coming to the 2021 Lake County Film Festival. I am Executive Director Nat Dykman, and this is the Q&A for the Sci-Fi Triple Feature Shorts Collection. And with us today, we have Patrick Hogan, writer-director of Killing Time. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on this. It's a new way to do film festivals, the 2021 way of reaching an audience.
Well, 2020 too. I mean, last
Yeah.
year everything was virtual Q&A, and I had set up a schedule, trying to pretend it's a one-screen film festival, and basically did like all day on the weekends, and man, it was exhausting. So I was like, 2 a day, a shorts program, a feature, we're done. And it's much smoother and easier, especially since I like to rewatch stuff beforehand. Some of these films has been 6 months before. I saw 6 months ago, I saw these films, so it's good to refresh myself on them.
Yeah.
Before we start, I wanted to say, as I was getting out the wordy title, that it's I named it incorrectly, science fiction triple feature, since it's actually triple short, not feature, but it's a homage to that.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
But no one gets that at all.
You'll have to repeat that. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was
you're frozen,
over.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. We're having internet issues. Am I back yet?
Oh, was that you or me? I wasn't sure.
Well, first you froze. I didn't hear you, and then you didn't hear me. So I'm not sure. But you were about to tell the story of calling it the triple feature, and then you thought
just that it's an homage to the science fiction double feature song in Rocky Horror Picture Show, which no one gets at all. So that's fine.
No, but it's people forget that there used to be, when I was young, part of the reason I got into filmmaking and my love of film is, at least when I was still a kid, the local movie theaters did double features. So your price of admission got you to see there was the main feature, the featured film was the new release, and then they would pair it with a film from about 6 months to a year prior. So, for instance, when I saw Aliens, one of my favorite films of all time, science fiction classic, it was actually paired with Top Gun. So I've seen Top Gun way more than I would have, thought I would, because I went and saw Aliens in the theater like 6 times, and every time Top Gun played before it. So I got to see it twice.
I disconnected for that whole thing, but I'll go back and this isn't boding well for the evening, that we've had so many disconnects, but StreamYard is great. Since we're connecting to an outside server, if I disappear, feel free to just keep talking.
That's what I did. I thought you were just intently listening to my story. I was like, well, I've really gotten that wrapped up with the story of my youth and double feature films.
Last year, I just dropped off completely, and I came back like 5 minutes later, and a couple filmmakers were still talking, asking each other questions. Not that you can do that, unfortunately. It's just you. One of our filmmakers is from the Ukraine in this block. I think it's probably 5 a.m. there or something. So he's definitely not here. Although I did have someone from Munich show up at 3:30 a.m. their time yesterday. I saw Star Wars in a double feature with Saturday Night Fever.
Wow.
That was kind of weird. It was a drive-in. What do you want?
That is great. I'm actually friends with an actor from that film, so I have to tell him that.
Star Wars? I'm just joking.
Saturday Night Fever, but my sister met Mark Hamill and had no idea who he was, because she's not into science fiction and fantasy films.
Cool. Well, it's actually, and I know you haven't seen the other two, but it's actually, when I saw it in person, when I rewatched them together, I noticed that even though they're science fiction, they're none of your classic science fiction, and all involve murder. So let's dig into Killing Time. Where did you get the idea for Killing Time?
Well, so I'm because this is going on, I'm assuming some people haven't seen the film yet, so I'm gonna skirt around the twist.
Okay.
But basically, I was reading a science journal. Not that, and I'm not that I read science journals all the time, but I was reading an article online that looked very interesting to me, talking about new concepts in this particular field that I don't want to talk about because that would ruin the surprise. But it kind of sparked this idea that if this was indeed true, and the article was talking about how mathematicians had proven that this model of the universe works mathematically. So I thought, boy, if that's the case, then if A is true, then this, the story, the B would be true. And I came up with this idea of this story. And I originally wrote it as a totally different kind of, it was more of a noir thing with a narrator and about an assassin. And I was going to film it with an actress that I knew, and we were all set to do it in May of 2020. And then in April, and March of 2020, the world stopped and everything shut down. So we weren't gonna, we couldn't do it. So then we were in, June hit, and we're all in quarantine, and nobody's working because everything shut down. And I was talking with my wife, who had produced the last short film that I made virtually. And it was like, everybody's not working right now. Now would be a great time to shoot something because everybody's available. And we knew at some point SAG would come up with guidelines for how you could film safely. So we decided to remake the script in a way that could be done with our best guesses of, what would be allowed. And part of it was, at that point, they were saying everybody has to stay 6 feet apart. So I was like, well, can I do a film where everybody is 6 feet apart from one another, except maybe for one character who might be masked and in gloves and, completely covered up. And that's, so I rewrote the script as kind of in the horror genre, because the horror genre is perfect for, person alone in a secluded house far away from other people. And so I came up with this idea of a woman coming back from her run and who attracts this stranger who follows her home and lies in wait. And then the story developed from there and fleshed it out with the characters. And then, in the end, it's really a story about a mother and the lengths she's willing to go to protect her family. But maybe not in the way that you're expecting. There's a twist, which I don't want to spoil, but that's yeah. So that's kind of, and then out of that, I had a friend, a couple that I met many years ago when I made a film called Pope Dreams, and we've always wanted to work together. He's an actor, she's a casting director and producer, and they live in a house that's out. It looks like it's remote. It's not. It's just in the end of a block in Big Bear, but it looks like it's out in the woods. And so I thought, perfect opportunity to work with them. So called them up and said, hey, if we can figure out a way, if SAG will allow us to do it, I'd like to do this film and I have a role for you and I'd love to shoot it at your house. And they jumped on board, and Sharon cast the rest of the roles. There were 2 other roles, and she cast them. And Lowell played the dad, Harrison. And we filmed it all in one weekend at their place. We filled the paperwork with SAG because they're SAG actors, and we wanted to do it the proper way. And SAG required any film of any budget to follow the rules. So we had to follow the same rules that the $100 million films follow when it comes to COVID. And part of that meant then that we could only film for 2 days, because they require, if there's no close contact, which our film didn't have because we wrote it that way, then everybody had to be tested every 3rd day. And so the day before we filmed, everybody went and got tested on their own. And then we filmed for 2 days. And then had we filmed the following day, we would have had to have paid a nurse to come to the set and COVID test everybody. And we just didn't have the budget for that. So we knew it was going to be a 2-day shoot, 2 long, tough days, but we got it done in one weekend up at Big Bear. It was kind of like everybody, there was like all family. So myself, my wife, and my daughter, we were kind of like one pod there. And I was the writer director and also kind of helped with the sound and did every other little job that was needed of me. My wife was the COVID compliance officer. She went and got trained for it. She was also the script supervisor and a couple of the jobs. The lead actress, her husband is a filmmaker himself, very talented director. And he was the DP on the film. My daughter did hair and makeup. The girl who played the daughter, Peyton, her brother was the grip gaffer. So it's kind of like people who, were kind of around each other already. So we weren't getting a lot of people around where they could be exposed to COVID, because we filmed it in October of 2020, so that was still pretty early in the thing. There was no, vaccines and stuff in the future or anything like that. So we tried to be safe. And nobody caught anything. Everybody was totally safe. The worst thing that happened was there's a scene where the lead actress has to lie out in the wet dirt outside at midnight, and it was very cold. And I felt bad for her making her do it. That was the worst we got. She got the shivers. And that's the story of how it got made. We made it very quickly, and we filmed 2 days in October, and by February it was mixed, colored, and shipping to film festivals for submissions.
Wow. Did you shoot more without I don't know what it's called, but having the other person not be there when you're filming on? I was thinking about the conversation with the dad and how we're usually only seeing one side at a time.
Yeah. Well, no. So we actually, the other actor was always there. It was just, they stayed
further
away because they weren't masked. Everybody else, on set was masked. So the actor who wasn't on was off screen and had a mask on, and then would just take it down,
Sure.
when they were doing the lines. So their dialogue was clear. And if, there was a couple places maybe where we used some of that off-screen dialogue, not much, because it was off mic and, hard to hear, but they were always there. The actors were really good about that, so that you would have someone to work off of. But we also did shoot it. We didn't do a lot of over the shoulder coverage, because that requires so much move, that sometimes they have to cheat closer or this to make it work. And so one, there was that issue. And then two was just the speed at which we had to film to get it done in 2 days. Adding that over the shoulder aspect, even adding half an hour to each angle would have done us in. Sure. So we did it in a way that was simple. We shot it such that the medium and the close-up were shot at the same time on each angle. And we kind of shot out angles. So like we had to shoot kind of out of sequence, which was a little more challenging, because you have to talk to the actors. So the first thing we did was we shot all the angles pointing towards the door. So the first thing we did is we shot Harrison's scene, his angle, right? And then we shot, while he went and changed costumes, then we shot Peyton's, the daughter's, angle for that scene. And then Harrison had changed costumes, then we came in and then we shot his next scene from that angle. So we shot all that angle, and then we did this, and then we would turn around and shoot the other direction and shoot at all those angles, because we just didn't have time to light one angle, break it down, and come back to it later, because we were working with a crew of besides the DP and myself, there were only 2 other crew members, keeping it small. So it was just sure. It wasn't the best way to film. It required a lot more thought, because we had to shoot Harrison's reactions to a scene before we'd ever even filmed any of it with his daughter, with Cindy's angle. So, but that's how you shoot 9 pages of dialogue in 10 hours with a crew of 2 people.
Wow. Well, I don't know how to really dig into some of the bigger issues here if we're going to try and stay spoiler free. But I definitely feel like once you're available online, you should definitely make one of those. The Killing Time Explained.
Yes.
Love to come in and grill you once everyone's seen it,
Yeah, some people, we had a lot of discussions about how much to explain to the audience, how much to just let them catch up, and are we okay if some of it gets missed on a first viewing? And I was like, people have to watch it a second or third time, and they like it enough that they do want to watch it a second or third time to catch it all. Then that's fine by me. We decided we didn't want to be a film. So many studio films nowadays start with a voiceover that basically just tells you everything you're about to see. We're like, no, this is sorry.
Or on the indie films, it's text.
Yeah, or text. Yeah. I was like, you know what? It's a mystery. There's going to be a surprise. It's going to throw you for a loop. You might not understand at first what's going on. And it might take until you're talking with the other people you watched it with afterwards to kind of piece together all the, I think we leave all the clues in there that you need to track what's going on. But we intentionally decided we wouldn't, be too expositional and explain over. We were worried that we would risk over explaining it to some of the audience, and we didn't want the audience to be too far ahead of the characters.
And I mentioned to you, and I mentioned to Maggie at the actual festival that you know, it is so rewarding on a second viewing, I'm sure, because there's a lot of subtle stuff in there, a lot of subtle nods to what's going on, that once you know where the main character is coming from, then some lines give you a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah, we intentionally have a couple moments in there where it's just a look between the two of them as one character figures out what the other character is doing, and then there's a couple moments where one character is giving the audience information by the way she reacts to what's going on, to clue you in on, you know, what's going to happen if she doesn't, you know, take the risk that she's willing to risk with her own life to save the day.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and thank Maggie for coming. It was really a great time having her there. I think, yeah, I had two people. There was about an hour and a half Q&A for your 18 minutes at one point.
Maggie's great, and she was wonderful. She was so good, and she's so smart. She asked so many smart questions about this character, and the reason it's so good is she, you know, it's really, you know, there's a moment, you know, where she, you know, decides what she's going to have to do, and you can just see it in her eyes, the terror and then the relief, you know, without trying to spoil anything.
Yes, right.
She was just really great.
Right. All right. Well, great. Well, it's great to see you again. Hopefully, we'll see you in person sometime.
Yeah. Maybe next year's festival, I can come out in person, even if I don't have a film, just to start traveling again and see people and take in some cinema.
Well, you know, I did have this year, and I used to do it, you know, back in the day, a free room where I show things that I wouldn't normally show. And this year, because we had so little, we had basically no in person, I had a full day of movies I had previously shown last year. And so, yeah, we could figure that out as well. We could put you in a little side room if you don't have more work to do.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to. I get to see that. I'm looking forward to the online. So the online, did it start already, or is it?
It did, and it goes to the 29th. So
okay, good.
So why don't I sign off, and I'll set you up with something here. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. And yes, Science Fiction Triple Feature is available until the 29th at midnight. You can go on the website and just rent that one. It's $5 freaking, you know. So,
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
They're all great, and I don't know if I mentioned, but that one from the Ukraine is actually based on a Robert Sheckley story, who's my favorite author of all time. So that's pretty fun. But it's animated too, you know. All right, well, see you in an hour. I'll be back with another Q&A for Planet B234. Thanks.
All right.